Hey guys, Brent Boyer from Adam again. So I wanted to talk today about some mistakes that you should avoid when going through a divorce. So there's a list of 17 mistakes that men should avoid when they're going through a divorce. Okay, so number one is going through a divorce without a therapist. This is a common mistake. People don't know, it's their first time going through a divorce. They don't know what they need to be doing. I think it's easy to associate therapists with marriage counseling, and you're thinking, well, if I'm not trying to save my marriage, if it's too late for that, then I really don't need a therapist, because really the therapist is for saving the marriage, for counseling. And really, a therapist is a good idea. It's something you should be considering. Even if you're doing marriage counseling, having someone to talk to separately, somebody that can be your person for private and confidential discussions, is a good idea. It's a good time to get advice. Do not try to go through this process alone. So that's number one. Number two is getting a divorce without knowing what you're doing. So this is like the do-it-yourselfers. This is people that are not really looking into it, not ready to respond, not wanting to deal with it. Maybe you put your head in the sand a little bit and try to ignore it for a while, but you're not getting educated on the process. You're not learning the information. You don't want to have to deal with it, and it can hurt you, because not knowing what needs to happen and what needs to be done is not going to be good for you. Nobody's going to care about this more than you, and nobody's going to be looking to protect your interests more than you. The divorce lawyers certainly can help and do a lot of the work, but you would also need to know what needs to be done, how you should be reacting to things, how to deal with things, reasonable goals, expectations, and that's good to be doing. So that's number two. Number three on this list of common mistakes is removing your spouse from your health insurance at the beginning of the divorce. So a common mistake men will make is they remove their wife from the health insurance because they're mad at her, or they think they don't need it anymore, they don't want to have to pay the cost, and they'll remove their wife from the health insurance. And you do not want to be doing that. It just makes you look like the bad guy. Most courts, the judges will make you reinstate it, which can be costly or can be problematic, sometimes not even possible. So you don't want to be taking them off in the first place. You keep status quo at the beginning. That's the best advice, would be to keep the status quo at the beginning of your divorce. Keep things like health insurance, beneficiaries on life insurance, whatever it might be. Keep all that in place until there's an agreement on making changes, and when it's time to make changes, you'll know it. Number four on this list of common mistakes people make at the beginning of a divorce is fighting over useless personal property. It's easy to pick a fight about anything. Sometimes you're not the one picking the fight, that's different, but you don't want to be the one causing trouble over things that really have no value and don't matter. We don't want to be fighting about personal items in the home or some furniture that really doesn't matter, the little stuff. Don't worry about the little stuff. There's plenty of big issues to be dealing with, so you want to avoid that mistake. Number five on this list of common mistakes men make at the beginning of a divorce is moving out of the house with no discussion, with no real forethought, no plan, no sense of what they're doing, and then there's all these problems. Especially if you have children, if you have minor children. Moving out can bring with it a lot of problems. It can lead to issues with custody, parenting time, child support, and those sorts of trouble, and you want to be avoiding that at all costs. Number six on the list of 17 common mistakes is not following court orders. So once a divorce case is started, once things are filed with the court and are going forward, either you or your wife, or sometimes both of you, are going to get court orders put into place. It's very typical to do that. It's actually possible to get court orders at the beginning without a hearing. Those are called ex parte orders, and you need to be following those court orders. You do not want to be the one who we have to drag into court because they're not following things, not doing what they're supposed to, and now you look like the bad guy. You know, judges, they like to think that one of you is wrong, so they like to think one of you is the bad guy. If you get portrayed that way at the beginning, it's hard to overcome later. So you want to be the one following the orders. If there's court orders that are wrong or need to be modified, you need to talk to your attorney and have those changed, whether it's custody, parenting time, child support, paying bills, whatever it might be. If there's things that just become impossible or not going to be practical anymore, you need to modify them, but you would not want to start violating them. Number seven on our list here is refusing to cooperate, refusing to compromise about anything. There are some people that just want to stand their ground. They get into this, they sort of dig in. I'm not giving in, I'm not going to give up on this particular issue. Or some people just don't want to give in on any issue, and that's always the wrong approach. What you want to do ahead of time is get advice from an attorney so that you know what's a reasonable expectation, what should I be doing here, what should I be pursuing? What are my fight? Pick your fights, pick your battles. You don't want to be fighting over nothing, or one of these people that, because you don't know what to fight about, you're sort of uneducated on the process. Your position is to just say no to everything, and that's not going to go well. You want to avoid. Number 8 of common mistakes men make in a divorce is not verifying the numbers on your budget and your balance sheet, not looking behind the numbers. Maybe your wife comes up with some sort of preliminary thing, comes up with a list of what the assets and the debts are, or a list of what the bills are, whatever it might be. You want to be verifying the information. This is the time to do this and get it right. You need to educate yourself. If you're not the one that usually pays the bills, or you're not the one that's watching that closely to the accounts and the balances and the retirement, or whatever it might be, you want to avoid just accepting numbers that are put on a page, or just accepting calculations that are given to you, whether they're child support or spousal support, what it might be. You want to look at the data that goes into those numbers. You want to be well aware of what's on the page, what data are we using to settle your case, because that can make all the difference in how your case is settled. Number 9 on the common mistakes men make is withdrawing large sums of money from a joint account. You want to avoid doing that. It's not going to make sense. It just makes you look like the bad guy. Your wife's going to find out at some point. There's not really a way to hide that from her through the discovery process, through disclosure. In a divorce case, we're going to see bank statements. We're going to know what's happened. If there's a recent history of large sums of money go missing, you just end up having to explain those, and now you look like the bad guy. And once one of you looks like the bad guy, everybody kind of sees you that way, and it's hard to undo. So you want to avoid that issue when you can. It's different if there's a joint account and your wife is making threats about taking all the money, or you think she might take all the money. Going in, taking your half is one thing, but people just removing large sums of money for really no reason just causes trouble. It's not a good thing to be doing. And number 10 on this list of common mistakes, this is for people that have children, kids under 18. You want to avoid telling your kids all sorts of horrible things about your wife. So avoid telling your kids horrible things about your wife, even if they're true. Their mom's cheating, their mom's got whatever problem. You do not want to be getting into discussions with minor children about that sort of thing and mom's behavior and whatever's going on at the beginning. Again, this leads to the other idea of talk to a therapist. If you don't know what to say to the kids, or they ask you things you're not really sure how to answer or explain, a therapist can help you with what makes sense, what you should be talking about, what you should not be discussing. So you really want to be careful at the beginning with what you discuss with your children. It's hard to undo those things later. And number 11 common mistake is doing anything mean on purpose just to hurt your wife. So you want to avoid being one of these revenge people, somebody that's just doing things out of spite. You're taking a position that, well, because she did this, I'm going to do that. You always want to be moving the case forward, working towards a resolution. You don't want to be the one that's taking unreasonable positions or trying to do things just to make it difficult for your wife, or just to you don't want to be taking a position that gives you no benefit. You want to do something that's reasonable and be moving the case forward. Number 12 on the list of common mistakes that men make with the divorce process is not making a budget. So not making a post-judgment divorce budget for yourself. You want to be looking ahead. If you're going to make an agreement, if you're going to reach an agreement on child support and spousal support and whatever's going on, and you're going to move out and get a new place, you want to look at your monthly budget all the time and have that in mind. Where are you at? How much money's coming in versus how much are you spending? What can you agree to? What you can't not agree to? You do not want to be making agreements without looking at the big picture, and now you're in trouble. So it's avoiding problems before they happen by making a budget of where are you now, and making a post-divorce budget as well. Number 13 in the common mistakes, again, this is for people who have minor children. A mistake they'll make is not keeping a joint calendar for their kids during the divorce and after the divorce. So not keeping a joint calendar. You want to be on the same page with what the custody and parenting time arrangement is. And if you can, you'd even want to go through and make a calendar on a computer, on paper, whatever is easier. Something that's shared that you and your wife have agreed on. There's the pink days and the yellow days, or however you're doing it. You want to set up my time with the kids, her time with the kids. Everybody knows what to expect. Everybody knows what's happening. And then include with that holidays and time off and whatever it might be, and just try to think ahead as much as you can on that. Look at school calendars, look at planned vacations, things that you know are coming up, and make sure those are all on there. Make sure you're on the same page with the parenting time schedule. It'll avoid problems. And number 14 on this list of common mistakes is not understanding the tax implications of your divorce agreement, not understanding what you've agreed to as far as the tax implications go. So you want to avoid blindly making an agreement, deciding what to do with property, deciding what to do with retirement accounts. Maybe you're cashing something out, maybe you're going to take out a loan, whatever it might be. You want to be always aware of the tax implications. You'd want to run it by an accountant, run it by a certified divorce financial planner, because those people definitely exist. There's a role there. Your lawyer cannot advise about everything, and sometimes their advice is you need to go have somebody give you advice about this. I mean, we know when we're beyond our area of expertise on that. So you always want to be aware of tax issues and what that looks like, whatever you're agreeing to, and have full understanding of what you're doing before you sign the agreement, before you make it final. Number 15 on the common mistakes men make is hiding money. So you want to avoid the strategy of, I'm going to hide money, I'm going to put this in my uncle's name, I'm going to put this in my friend's account for now. You want to avoid that. It always backfires. It just makes you look like the bad guy. It makes people assume that if you hit $1,000, you're probably hiding more, and then it's hard to get a good settlement because everybody's always sort of questioning what you're up to. So you want to avoid that. You don't want to be seen as the person who's hiding the money and doing underhanded kind of stuff. It just doesn't pay. And number 16 in these common mistakes to avoid, again, this is for people with children in a divorce, not making sure your parenting time schedule works before you agree to it in court. So you want to get a sense of what's being agreed. A lot of times there's these agreements that are on the courthouse steps. They're agreed to the day of, while you're in court dealing with an issue, and you want to avoid those last minute discussions and decisions because it doesn't give you time to think about the implications and how this works, how it fits with your work schedule, how it fits with the kids' activities, whatever it might be. So you want to give some thought to the parenting time schedule before you make it final, before you even have a temporary agreement. You want to be thinking about, how is this going to work, and how does this fit with my life and the kids' life, and is this something that's realistic? And then number 17 on our list here of common mistakes, the last one, is assuming that you can change your divorce judgment later. This is a common misconception. There's sometimes even lawyers telling people that this is possible. Don't assume that, for example, that custody can be modified later. And you're thinking, well, I'll agree to this now. I'm tired of fighting about this. We'll do this for now, and we can always look at it later and look at what we can do to modify it. It's not a good idea. Custody is, the law says it's modifiable. It's really not. It's difficult to do later. Property settlements cannot be modified later. Those are definitely final. So you do not want to be making agreements in the context of a divorce. You're weary of everything and you want it over with. You got to make agreements you can live with and assume that they're final. Don't make something an agreement with some assumption that you work it out later or change it later or worry about it later. There's no worry about it later. You got to get it all nailed down for now. So again, I hope that helps. If you agree with the content or you like what we're doing here, please click like. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. Thanks.